So I'm going to start doing the returns for other people to see what they got. First of all, we have Skeeth, who I've not heard from in a long time. He's got some cards for me to ship. PSA 10 on his Articuno from Hidden Fates. Now, unfortunately, a lot of these graded 9. I saw the grades a long time ago, so I was a little sad about that. But Skeeth was lucky. He got by with the 10. We have Mr. Bryant Lewis. That's right, Bryant's been with us for a long time. He picks up Guzzlord and Charmeleon, but they're both 9s. They're modern 9s. I was thinking the other day, I was like, you know what, 9s and 10s for modern are okay, but actually I just kind of prefer 10s when it comes to modern. Next up, we got Suka Kong, another guy I haven't heard from in a long time. You know, Suka, if you're not interested in Pokemon cards anymore, you can always contact me and ask me to buy these cards off of you. So you got PSA 9 Rocket Scyther. Suka was with us for a very brief moment in time. He opened a few packs. I don't know if he was ever into Pokemon cards. I think he just thought the idea of the live stream was very novel. Here's Chief B again. Chief! PSA 9 Mega Blastoise EX. Now this doesn't surprise me. XY Evolutions, it is hard to get a 10 with XY Evolutions. So let's take a quick look. Okay, and you can see that this one's real off-center. That's the reason it got a 9. Actually, a 9 might be generous, because with that off-centering, it almost looks closer to an 8. Mr. Metalax, you also had a PSA return this time, and it is, unfortunately, PSA 9 Rockets Grimer. So I'm going to look around, see why I graded 8. That bottom corner is thin. That's got to be it. So it's this bottom corner here. You can even see it on the back. So you compare it to that corner. That's too bad, man. I feel like PSA has definitely given 10s out to cards this off-center before. This one might be borderline 10, Mr. Metalax. I don't know if it's worth resubmitting, because if it comes back 9 again, you're just going to lose money. Mr. Ryoma, you're the other guy who got a nice 10 here, 10 Articuno. You also got this lovely Neo 2 Scissor and PSA 9 Entei, unfortunately. You can kind of see it. He's pretty clearly off-center. And a PSA 10 Cinderace VMAX. You also pulled Jungle Jolteon and Jungle Vaporeon PSA 9. Beautiful. All right, now we have DL, base set Nidoking 9, base set Poliwrath 9, base set Chansey 9, and Hypno 10. Beautiful. Those were some of the earliest guys on this channel to be very active and buy lots of Pokemon cards. And they went real deep, man. They opened up a lot of vintage stuff. And like many people, they had to stop at some point because you can't open an infinite number of Pokemons. They've waited this entire time for these cards to return so they can make some of their money back. So they must be pretty happy that these are finally coming back. Mr. JC, you have Nidoking PSA 9. And Nidoqueen from Jungle, also PSA 9. So lots of 9s, unfortunately, with these vintage cards. Mr. Ranmiciel. All right, so Ranmiciel, you're also picking up PSA 9 Rockets Grimer. Jesus. And you can tell he's off-center. That must be the reason. And now we got Sora, Misty's Tears PSA 9. That's actually still really valuable. Did you know that? This card, PSA 9, this card goes for like $350. And Gyarados from the base set. Beautiful. All right, so lots of 9s. These are like from people almost 8 months ago. 8 months ago. So this is a really old return. So congratulations everyone on your returns. I guess the good news, no 8s. So 9s actually go for a significant amount of money even. A 10 would have been ideal. Some people did get 10s, but they appear to just have been modern cards. In fact, even Bryant Lewis got 2 9 moderns. This time I was determined to send off a lot of my own cards. So we have these big 3 beautiful stacks. All right, here we go. Card number 1 is Sudowoodo. Oh, right, I remember this now. Back then I had so many cards that the idea of submitting tons of cards to PSA was a little bit daunting. And I had a lot of cards like this that I didn't really consider valuable back then. So like PSA 10 Sudowoodo, I basically thought of him like a trash card. But then at some point, I'd sent off all of my most expensive full arts, and I'm like, well, what do I send now? And I started reaching for cards like Sudowoodo. And look at that, he comes back at 10. So, well, we're getting lucky with these grades. Matang 10, huh? You know what? Probably what was going on back then was I was very carefully sifting through these because I didn't want to send off any potential 9s. Back then, I didn't consider these that valuable. So in my mind, I was probably saying only 10s are acceptable. So I was probably sifting through them and strictly picking out what appeared to be 10s. Oranguru. Stroking his chin. Man, I hate Oranguru. It's another one of those monkey Pokemons. I've never been fans of monkeys. Now look at this. This was a card I really wasn't thinking I would send it in because it's just a Shining Legends Mewtwo. And there was like a bazillion of these floating around back then. Remember, that was 8 months ago. And the Shining Legends booster pack, you know, it was like $7 or something. It was a little pricier than other cards, but not that much pricier. Now it's so much later. I bet this is like a $100 card now. Now look at this, was so weird. The border on the left is thin and the border on the right is thick. I guess they just don't care. Maybe that doesn't matter to them. I don't know how it works over at PSA, man. Another 10 10. Again, these are cards I thought of them as trash cards. So I was very strictly poring over them and only grabbing the 10s. Look at the off-centering on this one. This one got a 10, by the way. Look at that off-centering. I don't know how they decide the rules work with those black borders in the front, but I consider that off-center. How many of these did I have? Jesus. We got like 6 of those, man. Now here's a card back then that really wasn't worth that much, but today I think it's worth a lot. The PSA 10 Charizard GX from Hidden Fates. Back then, the only thing people really wanted was the Hidden Fates Shining Charizard. And as a 10, for a while, he was selling like even as low as 400 as a 10, because the Pokemon craze, it was starting, but it wasn't really quite there. And there was no shortage of PSA slabs on eBay at that point. So this card was not going for that much. Oh man, I'm sad this got a 9. So this is Regigigas or whatever, and this is from the Tag Team Power Collection. It's that promo set. Unfortunately, this one only grabbed a 9. I really would have only wanted a 10 with this. So this one will probably be very, very cheap. Here's a card that I really must have been considering it might be valuable. And well, how is this a... No way, dude. You could tell this is not a 10. So look at the centering if you can. Look real carefully at that centering. That centering's terrible. It's even more terrible holding it in my hand. I don't know how well you guys can see it. That centering's pretty bad. In fact, this whole corner doesn't make sense. It's like a weird corner. It's even got a little bit of a white spot started, but it's not quite a white spot. And then you come down here. That looks a little bit like a white speck. It's very small. It's a 10, dude. 10 team up. I guess I'm glad I sent it off. That card's really valuable as a 10. Oh man, that Lugia, I think the last time he sold it was like $200. This is part of the reason why I wrote you guys that message in the Discord saying, you know what, I think I realize now that the holos have a little value to them. So that card will end up netting me like $200 by itself. All right, now what do we have here? Oh yeah, so some of you guys remember I had this big black folder where I had stored a ton of raw Team Rocket cards. This was very early on. This is when I first started collecting. And back then those cards cost me like $5 and $6. They cost almost nothing. That was back when the Rocket Box cost like 2.4 thousand for a first edition Rocket Box. So at some point we started all realizing that the vintage cards were just exploding in price. And I went back through that folder and I picked out many of the holos that looked decent and I started sending them off. So here's a PSA 8, Rainbow Energy, Rocket, Unlimited. It's still profitable, you know what I mean? I paid probably close to nothing for this. And the grading wasn't that expensive, but this card will probably go for a little chunk of money. We have PSA 5, Dark Dugtrio. That'll be pretty cheap. Here's another one, Dark Dugtrio 9. So this one actually scored a 9. That's pretty good. That's actually pretty collectible in my opinion. We have Ampharos. Ah, man, I got an 8 on that Dark Ampharos. Whew. Basically, that means I lost money. I think I lost money. I would have been better off if that packet remained sealed and was still sealed today. So that was a really, really unfortunate pull. Mimikyu 10 from Cosmic Eclipse. I didn't really know if Mimikyu was going to be that valuable back then, but I sent them off anyways because I think I was just sending off all my cards basically. These V-card full arts, these are like the real deal. These are like the actual full arts. VMAXs are, they're not that high quality. These are the cards people want from Sword and Shield and DDV full art. Same with this one. So the pecking order is kind of like hyper rare and then these and then VMAXs and finally Vs. And sometimes the VMAX and I would say the VMAX and the V are interchangeable. Just depends on which artwork you want. Oh, this graded 10, excellent. Whew. I was worried I wouldn't get a 10 of one of these. Look how off center it is. This is very off center. Do you see how off center this is? This graded 10. PSA standard of a 10. Now, I'm not trying to beat up on PSA, but they need to add 9.5. They need to add 9.5 already. They need 9.5 and they need PSA 11. Look, it's even thick up here and thin down here. How did this get... I don't understand. Maybe a new guy was grading this. Oh, excellent. Another 10. This one looks a lot more like a 10. Very good. All right, Umbreon Darkrai. Take a look at that. Oh, that's fantastic. This is a kind of card you will want in your modern collection because it looks so freaking cool. So these go together. Espeon Deoxys, Umbreon Darkrai. And those are some fantastic artworks. Pokemon did a really good job on those. I got 3 of them now. Oh, man. Those are stonks right there. And another one. So back then, when Rebel Clash came out, Mary Kay was going real deep trying to pull a melodic. So I purchased up a few melodics and sent them off to grade. Definitely one of the cooler cards from this set. You almost forget it's in there. So now that you're seeing it, you're going, oh man, I wish I had one of these. Yeah, she went like 13 booster boxes deep. It was actually pretty crazy that she didn't pull one. She did eventually pull one, but it just took so long. Whoa, how did this one get a 6? Oh, look at that. That's that impression. You guys recognize that. A PSA 6 of a modern card. Okay, and what do we have here? Another 10. How many of these did I order? I don't know exactly how long it's been. It must be about 8 months. And, oh man. Back then, this card was not very valuable because Unified Minds was still relatively new. I mean, it wasn't like super new anymore, but it's not like it was running out of stock. Have you seen Unified Mind boxes? They're like over $300 now. So this card might be like a $300 card because generally the hyper rare, very similar to the booster box itself. So if the booster box goes for, let's say, I don't know, $320, this might be like a $350 card. Wow. Back when I sent this, I didn't think of it that way. I said, you know, if this grabs a 10, maybe it's worth like $100. There it is, another cube. It's kind of like silver stacking or gold stacking, right? You guys ever heard of that term? It's when you get a bunch of silver coins or gold coins and you stack them up and it's like an investment or whatever. Invest! Well, this isn't really quite like that, but this is sort of like a sort of like product. That feels cool. There's actually one more stack. So you got one more tall stack. PSA 9 on that EV, PSA 9 on this EV. These poor EVs. Coming back 9. All 9s. Isn't that sad? Poor EV. Ooh, this probably won't drop in price too much. Beautiful Charmander. This is kind of a big deal. So this card goes for a lot of money. I think it goes for like $150. And another Charmander. This is a very popular Hidden Fates card. I think it always will be. He's just so good looking. If he ever falls below a certain price range, you can probably pretty confidently buy him up. Yeah, there'll probably be a point where the price peaks on the cards and then they start declining a little bit. Not rare cards though. Rare cards won't decline. Rare cards might only go up. And the reason for that is because you got all these people submitting PSA slabs because that's the demand for PSA cards. It's something you have to think about. So it's not just guys like me who want to flip cards. Well, first of all, I keep a lot of PSA cards, so I have a lot of cards myself. And then second of all, there's a lot of people who just really enjoy collecting this way now. Many of those PSA cards coming back will just go into someone's collection as soon as it comes back. But yeah, you know, the price should come down at some point. It depends on how many people are joining the hobby versus how many PSA slabs are being graded. Whenever that formula kind of tilts a certain way, the price should go down. So not enough people joining, too many cards being graded. But we don't know if we've actually reached that level. So we've got Viridian Force 10 from Unified Minds, very cool. And then, PSA 10 Gengar Mimikyu. Wow, that's a really good one. One of my favorite cards from Team Up. And Team Up's gotten so expensive. Excellent. Wow, that's great. Back then, this card probably was going for about 200, which would have been a lot back then, because a lot of those hyper rares were going for just $100 back then. Okay, we got Lucario 10. He's pretty cool. We got some Lucario fans in here probably. Does PSA normally just hand out 10s like this in your experience? No, they do not. They're not just handing out 10s. What's going on is some of these really are 10. One or two of these might be considered worthy of a black label or a perfect 10 with the CGC. And then some of these are 9.5s. PSA doesn't distinguish between any of those. So that's what's going on. PSA just says they're all 10. It's bad in some cases, like when you buy a card that's more like a 9.5 and you're paying the price of a 10, so you're probably overpaying a little bit. But it's weird because if you go back to sell it, you also can claim it's a 10. You could be like, well, this is a PSA 10. You know what I mean? And the other issue here is you're actually losing some money when your card is worthy of like a black label. You're missing money on that. You should know when it's a black label so that you can sell it for a much higher premium. So it looks like I'm going to have a lot of PSA 10 Hidden Fate holos to sell because this is a lot of duplicates. Did you open that many Hidden Fates? Yes. Some of you guys weren't around for this, but when Hidden Fates come out, that Black Friday, they were selling, get this, they were selling Hidden Fate tins with the 4 packs inside for $8 a tin. And I bought like a whole wall of them and opened up the entire thing by myself. So yes, I had quite a lot of these from back then. And the PSA 10 version of these cards would have been worth like 30 bucks. They weren't worth anything when they first started coming back, really. Cards back then were cheaper in general. The booster packs were cheaper, the slabs were cheaper, the set had just come out, there weren't as many people in the hobby, and now everything's like blown up in price. So things have changed over time. Here's a Froakie 8. Wow, we are almost done with this enormous PSA return. Lots of 10s, actually. I'm really impressed with that. Pretty happy with a lot of these grades. All right, here's what we just added. We got some additional PSA cards available, huh? That's a lot of cards, man. Must have really combed over these cards very carefully. Everyone go to my grading company, AAA.